Our aid agencies warn that the cost of war in Yemen for humans grows daily and the need to save more civilians must be worked on. The UN have released their latest figures, and let's take a closer look. Now, 7 million people are on the brink of starvation and 85% of Yemen's population live in poverty. Perhaps unsurprisingly, children are most affected. 2.3 million are under the age of 5 and are malnourished, 500,000 of them severely. Now, since the conflict started in 2014, more than 3 million people have fled their homes and more than 16 million lack access to clean water and sanitation facilities. 2/3 of Yemen's people need humanitarian assistance and protection. The UN says shelter, food, water, healthcare and adequate sanitation are all needed urgently. Well, Yemen is also suffering the world's worst cholera outbreak, and it's affected more than 420,000 people and taking 1,900 lives. Well, Baraa Shiban works for the Reprieve Human Rights Organisation and joins us now from London. Baraa, good to speak to you. So just what needs to be done to help the people of Yemen now?
I think there is a lot to be done. First of all, there needs to be a cessation of hostilities, because we can talk about increasing humanitarian aid, but actually, the events have proven that actually, even if you increase humanitarian aid, there is still difficulties into actually getting that aid into the people that needs that kind of aid. The other thing is that the health sector in the country have almost collapsed. So we have 49% of the medical facilities still operating, and you have cities that are still living under siege, and the people there and the residents are witnessing day-to-day clashes. So this increased the threat and the difficulties on any humanitarian assistance. The second thing that needs to be done, which is very important, is that actually the salaries, the public sector salaries, need to resume. The doctors, teachers, and the people who used to keep the public sector running to a good level, I would say, haven't received the salaries, some of them for 10 months now. And this have affected how these facilities operate. Today, we're just almost a month away from 4.5 million children might lose their education next year, because there are many teachers in almost 13 provinces haven't been paid their salaries. So you can imagine difficulties coming from many levels, and actually the conflict it's only making it worse.
Baraa, how are the states, which is obviously in the midst of a civil war that's been running for over 2 years, meant to pay the salaries of civil servants? Surely, in the thrust of war, these things become increasingly difficult.
So you have, for example, areas that are under the control of the legitimate Yemeni government, for example. There is no excuse for the government not to pay the salaries for the people living in the southern part of the country. The other thing, also in the northern part of the country, you have the public sector. So I'm talking people like teachers, people like doctors, who used to receive their salaries even after the conflict started, and now having been paid for almost a year now. So I think that needs to be resumed in order for the facilities even to operate at a minimum level. The other thing, of course, which I just mentioned, is the cessation of hostilities, because there is increased difficulties in getting aid into the people that need it the most.
Absolutely. I just wanted to touch on that finally then, Baraa. These areas that are under control of the UN-recognised government, is it possible to get aid into anywhere within that area? Because, of course, as you remember, the UN decided not to bring in a vital aid shipment just a couple of weeks ago because of security concerns.
So I think that's a very good question. The UN did a security assessment, and according to the assessment, they considered almost most of the areas under the UN-recognized government control as being unsafe. And I think they need to reassess the situation, try to deal with local NGOs and the public sector that are still functioning in the country. And the main thing is that they need to keep the flow of medical supplies, the flow humanitarian aid coming into those areas, because for many people actually this is the only way they can survive.
Absolutely. Okay, Baraa Shiban from the human rights organisation Reprieve, based in London.